Good evening. It is this Monday, August 22nd. It is 5:15, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have tonight's agenda, and all are present. Item number 3 is our consent agenda, and I'll read it briefly here as follows. It includes the approval of the minutes from the August 8th council meeting, also approval of bills and claims. There are no licenses and permits tonight. There is a $5.4 million general obligation local option sales and service tax bonds resolution for an agreement with PFM, Professional Financial Advisors, or I believe is what that is. And then item E on the consent agenda is a Carroll Rec Center building improvement project, construction materials testing proposal, and that is it. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda if there are no questions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Schreck?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Fornero?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 4 is oral requests and communications from the audience. We have several members of the audience here tonight, but this is for members that wish to address the City Council on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council? Any topic? Anybody online? Hearing none, we'll move forward then. Item number 5 is an update from DMAC President Rob Denson. Welcome back. Familiar face.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present to you. I figured that at least once every 20 years I should come out to the City Council where we have a center, and since I start my 20th year in November, I'm running out of time. So it's great to be here. You all know Joe Lundstrom, our provost, and of course Jim Knott, who was provost for so many years and has been a board member of DMAC for 16 years now. Was not able to be here tonight, but we're very proud of this relationship, and I'm not going to talk a lot about Carroll. I hope you know a lot about it, but I want to talk about DMAC and what we're doing so that you have an understanding as to kind of how DMAC is faring right now in this environment. So this is kind of the fire hose version of Des Moines Area Community College. So we're in our 56th year as a college, pretty young in higher education terms. Technology is not my thing.
Oh, it's probably me. Hang on just a moment. Let's see if this
There
works
we go.
now.
We try her again. There we go. DMAC is 6,550 square miles. I always call it the economic sweet spot of Iowa. We have 6 fully accredited campuses, 5 other centers. Soon to have a 6th center as we move into the Templeton facility. Credit enrollment, we are the largest community college out of 15 by far, and we'll keep continuing to grow. We serve about 36,000 credit students, 22,000 non-credit students every year. We have students from every county in Iowa. 97% of our students come from Iowa. 95% of our students stay in Iowa after they graduate. Probably one of the best returns on investment of any of the colleges or university in the state. Our high school enrollment and our concurrent enrollment continues to grow. We did have a little bit of a decline during the COVID years, as most people did, but this fall looks very good. Summer term was up 7% over last summer. This fall, we'll know in 14 days how we're doing, but right now we're trending up as more and more students are getting back into the swing of getting into college. We look at market penetration. This is what we look like in 2000, and the red means more growth. We're a higher percentage of college-age students coming to DMAC. That was our market penetration in 2010, and here in 2019, Clearly, we've continued to add additional facilities so that we're within driving distance of everybody within our district. But again, more and more people are realizing the value that DMAC brings to the equation and what we do to help people get into jobs. Academic programs, we have 226 certificates, diplomas, and degrees, 19 transfer majors, and these are our top 6 majors. You know, we say we've got about anything anybody might want as far as a career, as far as career training, and we specifically try to work with all the businesses in our area, community colleges, and this is a national thing. Every one of our programs has an advisory committee of the businesses that hire students out of those programs, so we are spot on as far as what criteria, what we need to be teaching, what equipment we need to be teaching on, and also helping our students get into the workforce and work part-time while they're going to college. Everybody wants DMAC grads. We're the only community college in the world that Grinnell articulates with. We articulate with all the universities, public and private in the state. We just articulated with Tuskegee University. We're the only community college in the Midwest that they articulate with. And with George Washington Carver's relationship with Iowa State and Simpson, we've had a great relationship with Tuskegee. Right now, we're in the middle of the most comprehensive strategic planning process that DMAC has ever gone through. Too often, strategic plans are just things that could get on a shelf and don't get touched. I mean, we're spending a lot of time looking at who our stakeholders are, our people, our internal processes, and our stewardship, and we're going to drive down balanced scorecards into every department. And data anymore is just so available. We've got so much better data and so much more timely. We're able to really hone in on this. So we're spending the next year finishing our planning process. But we're looking at 2 higher level initiatives. These are the big ones we're going to handle over the next 5 years. One is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've seen the census. Iowa's becoming more and more diverse. Companies tell us all the time that they get better production out of diverse workforces, diverse teams. So we're excited about that as well. And then Guided Pathways is our second. Guided Pathways is a national movement. You know, we're fairly simple in higher education terms, but it's still hard for students that really don't have exposure to higher education to manipulate the system, decide what they want to do, and then how they get through. So the Guided Pathways, we help them clarify their path, get on the right path, stay on the path, and then make sure that they're learning. And as I tell all students that come into DMAC, you know, and I ask them to raise their hands, half of them are undecided, and then what I usually say, yes, half of you are undecided, the other half are wrong. Because most students don't know what they want to do. They really haven't had the time to understand what's even out there. I started out to be a veterinarian. I never even came close. But that's what I wanted to do when I left high school. So the more exposure you have to helping them really understand what they might want to do. And then as far as diversity, we want to make sure that anyone that comes to DMAC, everyone has an equal chance to be successful. We've got a DEI coordinator right now. We're working with our students, and we can identify in certain areas where some of our diverse populations may not be as successful. We can fix that because it's to our advantage and to all of our businesses that they become successful and move through. Talking a little bit about some of the successes DMAC has, probably one of the biggest things that will go down as far as successes in the last couple of years, the Department of Education last year gave out a number of grants to hire college and career transition counselors. So our community college partners with 2 K-12 to hire a counselor that actually works only on college and career transition work. I work on the Governor's STEM Council with the Counselor Engagement Committee. Our counselors usually have more students than they should have in the high school. They're dealing with mental health, discipline, registration. They don't have time to help students really think about their planning as far as career. So we're hiring these. We got one grant, a grant to hire 1 person. We hired 8 because we know that the students need this kind of support. They go into the K-12s 2 days a week at each of the K-12s, working with juniors and seniors and helping them plan. 33% of high school graduates do not go on to college. Between 2012 and 2017, the percentage of men going on to college after high school in Iowa dropped 7% to 54%. Women dropped 3% to 73%. So we need to help them get more support so they can decide what to do. So we're having great success. We'll get our first year's worth of data in about a month. So I'm very excited. We just got a $2 million grant. Congresswoman Miller Meeks did this for Indian Hills, but it's a statewide grant to help us hire even more counselors because we know that these young people need support. Menace and Susan Albaugh His only degree after high school was DMAC. He's one of the billionaires in the state of Iowa. He's Monsanto's largest competition. This is the night he and his wife Susan gave us the lead $1 million gift for our culinary arts program. We've got one of the best programs in the country. We've had a 39-year relationship with France. We bring French chefs here in January to work with our students. We just sent the second group this year. They just got back from France last night. Students that go over and work in French restaurants. And what I say to everyone, if you go into a restaurant around Central Iowa, always ask if there's a DMAC chef in the kitchen. Generally there is, and if not, you should leave. But this is our new building that we built a couple years ago. It's beautiful, and we hold a number of culinary art dinners there all the time. This is the day Carl and Penny Moyer, Carroll Chevrolet, gave us a lead $1 million gift to expand our auto tech facility. Again, we doubled the size, doubled the number of techs we can put out annually. We hold the only statewide auto tech high school competition in the state. This is 309 students from all over the state. And when they walk into this facility, they say, wow, it is beautiful. It's got a showroom, a lot of very, very fancy cars. And these are kids that want to work in the auto technology area. Our urban campus in downtown Des Moines is the first majority students in Color College and University campus in the entire state of Iowa. We're just finishing a $25 million addition down there. On the right side of the DMAC letters is the STEM Education Center, 2 floors of science labs, and then some student services space. On the left side of the DMAC letters is a conference center and a food court. So it's really an opportunity for the 5,000 students who attend our urban campus every year to really get a true college experience. We've also partnered with UNI at DMAC. Now this started here in Carroll, where UNI partnered with us. Now they're on our urban campus. They provided the last 2 years of a 4-year degree right there. And they've also just got a $4 million grant from the state so that a DMAC student who wants to finish up at UNI can finish those last 2 years at DMAC tuition, which is a tremendous savings. But UNI is reaching out to a number of other colleges and really trying to expand their footprint in the state. Boom, we finished an $8 million addition, which is primarily a wellness facility. Fairway gave us the lead grant there for the naming rights. That year we happened to win the national championship in men's basketball. They say it's because we gave them a new place to work out. I've actually got a national ring. It's too heavy to wear, but it's very, very nice. And this year we came in 3rd in the nation. So we've got one of the most successful athletic programs in all of our various athletic teams as far as academic success. We have more students every year on the academic honor roll of athletes in any other college university, so we're very proud that we focused on academics. And then, of course, we finished a beautiful addition here with a welding area, classrooms, conference space. This is Jim making comments at the open house a few months ago. We're very proud of this, and we named one of the rooms after Jim and Marge. Again, he's a legend in our world. He's a force to be reckoned with. You probably know him, but he's been a great board member and very supportive of everything that we want to do. When Whirlpool sold out or bought Maytag and then moved out of Newton, we were given all of the Newton corporate office buildings. It's a beautiful brick building, very historic. So we were given them. It's right on our Newton campus. So we're partnering to bring in some market rate housing, a boutique hotel, a restaurant. We've already got a brewery in there. So we're helping in economic development for the community get that up and running. So it's going to be a beautiful addition to our Newton campus. It's right next to us. Politics aside, we try to get every politician we know on campus in one way or the other. Our tool and die program makes beautiful brass medallions. They look like gold, but they're brass. We're a community college. So we've given one to President Obama, President Trump. This is what we're giving to President Biden. It's just, they need to know what we do. And it's the same for the legislators we have in Iowa. You know, Brian Best and all of your area legislators are extremely supportive of community colleges, and we appreciate all of that. Homeland Security, those friendly people at the airport. In 2011, TSA came to us, wanted us to develop a Homeland Security certificate for the screeners at the Des Moines airport. We did those bottom 3 courses. 2014, we put it online. We were rocking along pretty well until 2017 when the head of TSA flies in from DC, summons us to the airport, tells us that there are 80 colleges and universities across the country doing training for their airports, but they're so happy with what DMAC was doing that they gave us 36 states, 222 airports, 22,000 agents to train. They went from 80 college and universities down to 2, and we had 75% of the country. So it's run by our criminal justice department. Well, that was pretty cool until 2019 when they fired the other one. We We've now got all 50 states, 440 airports, 43,000 agents that we're training. And TSA pays for the training. And also, if there are any TSA agents that finish that want to get their 2-year degree, TSA will pay them to do DMAC's online 2-year degree. And last May, this is the first time ever, we had a graduate from every state in the union. We actually had somebody drive in from Baltimore to get his degree, and somebody drove up from Austin, Texas to get a degree. This is a big deal. So we're very pleased with that, and we work very hard. But we're the sole provider of Homeland Security training to all the associates in the TSA system. This is Iowa State. We created the Iowa Cyber Hub with Iowa State. Cybersecurity is a big deal, as you know. We were breached last year, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we've now created a 2+2 with Iowa State, and we're giving away our 2+2 to any other college or university that wants to utilize it, to partner with Iowa State, because there's a great shortage in cybersecurity professionals. We just added a new program with Iowa State called DMAC ISU Connect, where DMAC students who know they want to go to Iowa State are automatically admitted to Iowa State. When they come to DMAC, they can actually live in the Iowa State dorms, pay a little bit extra money to get the football tickets, etc. But it's just a great partnership. Iowa State gets more transfer students from Iowa State than any other college, gets more transfer students from DMAC than any other college or university, so we're very proud of that relationship. DMAC was also just named by the National Security Agency a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense. I don't think it's because we got breached, but we've got a very good academic program. We're the only one in Iowa that's designated a National Center for Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense, so we're very, very proud of that. Goldman Sachs, we run the first statewide Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. It's really a mini MBA for small businesses. We run over 200 businesses now through the program, and the goal is to help small businesses all over the state grow their sales force and their business profits. So we've been very successful. Kosovo, the most pro-American country in the world, the Iowa National Guard was instrumental in helping them with their independence. You walk down the main mall of the capital of Kosovo in Pristina, Iowa flags everywhere. I've been there 3 times. They really want to partner with us. And again, it's a beautiful country, but it's not on your top 10 places to visit. Again, they love Americans. Prices are unbelievably good, and it's really got a lot of historic value, so it's been very enjoyable. But we got a $1 million grant from the Millennium Challenge Corporation. With the 28 women from Kosovo were sent here, all expenses paid for 2 years to learn the energy trades. They graduated, not this May, but the May before. Average grade point average is 3.8. And they're all back in Kosovo now. This was a life-changing experience for them, and they're now all back in Kosovo working in the trades. Mid-American, we've got a big wind program, and so this is when Catherine Cooner gave us a used nacelle, full-size nacelle. We've also got a solar field. Again, wind energy is a big deal, and Mid-America has been a great partner. Thanks to the Iowa legislature, they've been extremely supportive, giving us funds in a number of areas that we can help grow. But one is to develop more certificate programs. This is just some of the certificates that we've developed. And this is for students that really can't spend a year or two to get into a job. But this allows them to get in earlier, then they can finish up their degree. Future Ready Iowa, this is the governor's signature program. The main thing is last dollar scholarship, where the state will actually pay your tuition before you have to take out a loan in over 50 different high demand areas. In the last 2 years, 2,886 students at DMAC have drawn down over $7.2 million in state money to help pay their tuition. And again, these are identified as high demand jobs, so this has been a great deal. The state now gives $23 million a year statewide to students that are going into these particular areas to pay for their tuition. I mentioned Dennis Aubaugh. He's got a 19-hole golf course on the northeast side of Ankeny. Every year he hosts a golf tournament for us. All the money goes to scholarships. So in 2019, we raised $458,000 for scholarships in a one-day event. Pretty big deal until this year when we raised $480,200. Nobody does that. It's been very successful. And again, every dollar given to the DMAC Foundation goes to students. We take no money off as overhead. It all goes to help students, which is why most people give the money in the first place. The National Science Foundation picked us as one of 13 colleges in the country because of our work with the NSF. They want us to do even better in helping grow STEM workforce. So We're one of 13 colleges picked throughout the United States to improve our STEM work. We were just picked by the Lumina Foundation, which is the primary foundation in higher education, as one of 6 community colleges in the country. They want to showcase what we're doing in workforce development, because they're impressed with the fact that we actually get people into work in a short amount of time, and they go on to be very successful. So we're very excited to be in a cohort, because we're going to learn from the other 5, and our goal is to always be better. Amazon, and you may have heard that Amazon now gives free college education to their associates. We were the first college in the state of Iowa to become an Amazon partner. And as of next February, we'll actually be offering courses in the Amazon facility in Bondurant. There are 1,800 of their associates there. So we're very excited about that. And they can go into whatever major they want. But it's a great way for Amazon to support their employees. And also, we got $1 million grant. Joel's done a great job. We had $1 million grant in the fall to open up a new career academy in Templeton, Iowa, partnering with 4 schools over there. It's a beautiful facility right on Main Street, Templeton. But again, our goal is to make sure that we've got good college, career, technical education within driving distance of the high school students in our district. So we're very excited about that. Google, we were one of 2 community colleges in the entire United States that Google was partnering their software engineering certificate. It's really been a cool process. We got 20 of our students that not only get the software engineering certificate for free, Google pays them each $5,000 to go through the process. So that they're going to get mentorships, they're going to get to work right and internships right with Google. So it's really been a great opportunity for them. And again, it's one of the many things that we give our students. Well, in 2016, we were picked number 10, and I don't mean number 10 of the 15 community colleges in Iowa. We were picked number 10 of the 1,717 programs in the United States, 2-year programs based on value. They came in, looked at all of our data, saw how efficient we were, number 1. But we've got the highest bond rating of any community college in Iowa, the lowest property tax levy rate of any community college, and the lowest tuition fees of any college or university in the state. And lastly, in the fall, Forbes magazine picked us as the #1 employer in the state of Iowa. We called them. We were the first community college or university to ever be named #1 employer in their state. You know, number 4 was Principal, number 5 was John Deere, number 6 was State of Iowa, number 9 was Iowa State, number 13 was University of Iowa. I mean, who keeps track of numbers? But we're very, very proud of this relationship. And it's all about our staff. We've got great faculty and staff, and without them, DMAC wouldn't be where we are today. So we're very, very excited about that and for this recognition. So our brand is Life's Calling. Our tagline says, "Dreamable is doable." My marketing brings this down to me and wants to do a billboard. I said, what it really should say is, "Life's calling, answer your darn phone." Because we know that there's so many jobs right now, and there are too many people on the sidelines. You know, and if you know anybody that wants to improve maybe they need to get started, but even if they're working and want to improve their lot in life and their long-term career, there's never been a better time. I can't guarantee it's going to be free, but I guarantee that it's very likely that you're going to get a lot of support. You pick one of the 50 last dollar scholars, before you take out a loan, the state will pay your tuition. If you don't qualify for any Pell, it pays all your tuition. If you qualify for some Pell, whatever's left, if the state will pick up. Iowa's been extremely progressive, not only in what we do with economic development, but what they're doing to help people get into the workforce, because Iowa understands that that's something to support. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in 20 years. No. But anyway, we're very proud of our relationship with everybody here. I mean, you're a great community, and you work hard, and we've had great leadership. So
That was more than just a fire hose version of it. That was, that was. Yeah, if this presidency thing doesn't work out for you, you probably try out for an auctioneer or something like that. It's really, really good. I've got 3 words for you: impressive. I mean, that is really, Joel. I mean, you got a rock star over there, and we just are so pleased to have this a part of Carroll, and it speaks for itself.
well,
And
we
can't
can do
thank you
more.
enough.
I mean, we're only limited by our imaginations and money, of course. Again, we've got a legislature that's been extremely supportive. This college and career transition counselor, that is going to be a game changer. Because if we can get that 1/3 of students that are going to college off the sidelines and get them into a skilled trade, at the very least,
Right.
I mean, that's a game changer for them and their families. So we're working on it.
I guess I was impressed on how many students stay in Iowa after they graduated. That's very high.
Yeah, but somewhat because of where we are. You look at the schools on the borders, you know, Davenport, Eastern Iowa Community College, or Iowa Western Council Bluffs, they don't keep the same percentage because they may drive across the river to Iowa or Illinois to work. But our students stick around. I mean, we've got, you know, we're about 23% of our students are diverse right now. We're going to continue to increase that. But I'm the first native-born Iowan to be president of DMAC. I'm the fourth president in 56 years. I grew up on a farm south of Homestead, Iowa. Worked my way through college driving a semi. I'm very proud of Iowa. I spent 25 years in Florida in witness protection, but I was glad to come back.
But what I'm getting at, it makes it, you know, it's easy for the legislatures to say, we'll give you money because it's staying here.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and with businesses on every one of our advisory committee, when our businesses send their letters of support to legislators, it's a lot of them. And we're very close to ABI and all the business organizations. So, and we stay focused. We're very lean as a college, very flat, but we work hard.
Very good.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Rob, thank you very much. Joel, you too, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Once you run off.
There you go.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again,
Thanks
you
a lot.
guys.
Thank you.
Yep. And come back again more than 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You want me to go to?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna take a little diversion here on the agenda, and we're gonna move to comments from the city manager because he has an announcement to make, and while Parveen is here too, but we're just gonna move,
Yeah, just to kind
Forward to
of
that.
help Parveen a little bit. The Library Board of Trustees has been working on filling the library director position, and that did get filled. And I guess Parveen, if you want to take it away, or
Okay, so we did an interview process and we've selected Wendy Johnson as our new library director. She will start on September 6th, which is the day after Labor Day. So if you didn't get to meet her during the meet and greet or the interview process, you're more than welcome to stop by and see how she is. We think she'll do great. She's got a good background, she's got experience and everything. So we're very pleased to welcome her when she gets here.
thank you.
very good. Yeah, thank you, Parveen. Okay, so we'll return back to tonight's agenda, and item number 6, under ordinances, 6A is a rezoning request for the Cothey property.
Yes.
And we discussed it on the 8th, but now we'll move to the next step.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so Lamar Cothey has requested rezoning of 100 acres of land located northeast side of Carroll, north of 18th and east of Grant Road. This diagram shows the areas that Mr. Cothey owns. He does have land that is adjacent to Grant Road, however, that will remain A1 agricultural, but area A on this map would be zoned R3 low density residential under proposal, and then area B on the eastern side of the parcel would be R4 medium density residential. The City Council did hold the public hearing on this request and approved the first reading of the ordinance at their last meeting on August 8th. No verbal or written comments were received at the public hearing, and additionally, as of today, no public comments have been received by city staff on the requested rezoning since the last meeting. Just to recall, the Planning and Zoning Commission did unanimously vote to recommend that the City Council approve the proposed rezoning, and staff is recommending the Council consider approving the request to rezone the property from A1 agricultural district to R3 low density residential and R4 medium density residential. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening. Thank you.
I would open it up to questions from the council. I know we discussed a couple items 2 weeks ago, but is there any further questions for Mike on this issue?
No, we went over this last time, and I'm willing to do the second, waive the third reading, get it rolling.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that'd be a motion.
Perfect. Is there a second to that?
Second?
Okay, there is a second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning request for the Cothey property and to waive the third reading. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bordenaro,
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, and then so as that's an ordinance, we need to also have a motion to adopt.
I move to adopt the ordinance.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bordenaro.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move to item 6B, which is Carroll City Ordinance per Chapter 6502, amendment for a stop sign at Court and Second Street. And Brad?
Thank you, Mayor.
you, too.
This is the same ordinance that I brought to you 2 weeks ago, and as of today, I have not heard anything back from anybody in the public reference this, so my suggestion at this point is we go ahead and move forward with it.
Okay. Any other questions for Brad about the item? Okay, I'd seek a motion to approve the second reading and then at your discretion to waive the third?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and that's to waive the third as well?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the second reading and waive the third for the stop sign at Court Street and Second Street. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bordenaro,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Perfect, and then we'll need to adopt that as well. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Perfect, we have a motion and a second to adopt that ordinance. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Bordenaro.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Perfect, thank you. And finally, under ordinances, we have a request to amend residential solid waste hauling agreement, add a fuel surcharge, and amendment to Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances related to solid waste collection fees. And Mike?
Thank you, Mark and Council. The City of Carroll has an agreement with our local solid waste haulers to collect residential solid waste in the city. Now, this agreement runs from July 1 of 2017 through June 30th of 2025. Other than periodic rate increases, the agreement itself does not include any provisions during the term to raise rates. With a recent spike in the cost of diesel fuel, the solid waste haulers have requested the city consider an amendment to the agreement to add a fuel surcharge. Now, the requested surcharge would be based on the price of Midwest Ultra Low Sulfur 15 parts per million and under diesel as published by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. As drafted, when the price of diesel would be over $3.95, the haulers can request the city to collect a fuel surcharge for the upcoming quarter. The surcharge itself would be based on the diesel price for the last month of the previous quarter minus $3.95 divided by 6.11. So for example, if the price of diesel was $5.46 in the month before the start of the quarter, the surcharge would be the $5.46 minus $3.95 divided by 6.11, or 25-cent surcharge. Now, for reference, the current monthly base for residential trash collection is $13.25. And also note, we did go back and look at previous diesel prices for the last 10 years, and over a 522-week period, the diesel price exceeded $3.95 only 47 times, and 23 of those have been in 2022. Now, as drafted, the earliest that the fuel surcharge would be added to the utility bills would be for bills mailed in October, assuming that the council would approve an ordinance and the agreement in the month of September. Now, I would note that there is no provision in the current agreement that would allow or require the city to consider such an amendment. This is simply a policy decision for the council to consider, and if you wish to make such amendment. If the council does not, or if the council does wish to make an amendment, we would recommend that you approve all three readings and adopt the ordinance prior to adopting the agreement itself. So the recommendation to the council is for the mayor and city council to consider a first reading of the ordinance to amend Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Carroll related to solid waste collection fees. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mike on this?
So what happens after July 1st of '23? The rate is $13.93. What are we gonna do? Is this gonna go continuing, or does it stop at July 1st?
So the way this is written in the ordinance is, it would be reviewed, the surcharge would be reviewed every quarter.
Okay.
And so if the rate of diesel would go down, that surcharge would go down. If it's below $3.95, there would be no fuel surcharge. So it is a variable rate, the way the ordinance and the agreement is drafted for your consideration.
Any other questions? A couple of things that Mike and I talked earlier about this is when he first brought it to my attention, I think we pretty well quickly agreed rather than open up the contract, which doesn't, terminate until 25, that an amendment was more, suitable for it. And then I also asked him about, whether they've extended this to the commercial side as well. And because they contract annually, individually with those commercial industries, that they have a fuel surcharge there as well. So I found it to be appropriate and reasonable and, certainly not out of line with the way things have been, and hopefully trend back downwards, but hopefully we don't have to worry about it, but it's there in case it needs to, and so I would certainly support it. But what's everybody else's feelings?
So we're gonna look at this again, what, January 1st?
Well, the way the ordinance is written is it's an automatic. That rate will reset every quarter. So again, if diesel prices go down, the fuel surcharge would go down. If diesel prices go up, that would go up. Now, the current listing, I put in the example, and it's in both the contract and the ordinance, the example of the $5.46. That was the price of diesel at the end of July. Now, I would tell you in the month of August, looking at prices, it's fallen since that. So what we ultimately charge as a surcharge when this would go in effect in October may actually be lower than what's even in here, because again, it'll be based on whatever the rate is at the time minus 3.95, then divide that by 6.11 to come up with that fuel surcharge rate.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, the fuel surcharge language is included in the contract amendment, which would run through June 30th of 2025.
And again, what you're seeking tonight is just the first reading.
Correct.
What you're seeking tonight anyways. So is there a motion to approve the amendment, at least the first reading?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the amendment, or the first reading of it. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the residential solid waste hauling agreement, adding a fuel charge and amendment to Chapter 106 of the solid waste collection fees. And this would be for the first reading, and then we just set the second reading for 2 weeks, correct?
Correct.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Schreck?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bordenaro?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Let's see, that's the end of the ordinances. And then item number 7, we have resolutions, and there's just one, and this is a $5.4 million GO, local option sales tax service bond series for the Carroll Rec Center Building Improvements Project. And let's see, I have 554. We'll open up the public hearing on this matter.
We don't need a public hearing on
Oh,
this
you
one.
do not?
No, not for this one tonight.
Okay, not on the issuance?
No, we're not quite that far yet in the issuance
Okay.
process.
All right.
We held the public hearing actually a couple years ago, and so that's been already taken care of.
Okay.
So tonight is the next step in the whole issuing process.
So do you need a resolution tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll make a few comments if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely. I was going to turn it over to you, and I want a summary of all 79 pages of that. So-
We won't go that far, but I will highlight a few things, but let me get it set up here real quick.
Thanks for that stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so tonight, the resolution before you accomplishes a number of items. First, we're authorizing to go out to bid for the issuance of this $5.4 million-ish amount of the local option sales tax and services tax bonds. We're working with PFM and Allers and Coonies to get this process completed. The second thing it does, it approves a bidding methods, or the bidding methods to be used, which include potential bidders or purchasers to submit sealed bids here to City Hall, or to use a system called the Parity Competitive Bidding System. It's an electronic online system, and this is going out to the broad market, and you'll be able to reach more potential purchasers by using this system. And the third thing this resolution does is it approves the preliminary official statement that was included with the information in the agenda. It's a rather lengthy document, but it is very important. Bond counsel does stress the importance of a careful review of this document. Not only does it spell out the bidding process for the debt issuance, it also includes background information about the city for potential investors. In fact, the SEC requires potential purchasers to obtain and review this preliminary official statement that has been deemed final by the city. And that's what we're doing tonight. It would be deeming it a final. The first part of the document gives a lot of information about how much debt is being issued, the purpose of the debt, and the terms of offering, like the repayment schedule, how to bid, and when the bids are due. The actual preliminary official statement begins on page 22 of the PDF that was included in the agenda packet. It starts out by stating some of the same information, like the authority and the purpose. Then on page 24, it lists the history of the taxable retail sales as reported by the Iowa Department of Revenue. These taxable sales within the Carroll County, which is kind of interesting, has gone up 7.5% over this 5-year period. On page 31, this section called Global Health Emergency Risk. As you can imagine, this is a newer section that's been added to this over the past couple years relating to COVID. During the review, my review of getting this information prepared tonight, I did notice we do have an error. This number here about the city receiving $372,912 in federal CARES monies, that number is actually incorrect. The actual number, and I've already talked to PFM about getting it updated, the actual number that the city's received so far is $475,422 in federal CARES Act money. In addition, then the remainder of the information is correct. In addition, we've also received $735,129 of ARPA, one installment, and we are planning to receive the other installment sometime this month. So I just wanted to point that out, that will get corrected before the final draft goes out to potential investors. And then there's some very good general information that about the city that begins in Appendix A, which is actually on page 36 of the document. Just to highlight a few things that are on here. A lot of this stuff you've probably seen, or we've talked about it when we've done budget, about our taxable valuation or our assessed valuation. It breaks down where the different property classes, like 63% of our taxable valuation is in residential, and then about 30% in the commercial, industrial, and utility. Just kind of a nice little tidbit of information there. This is interesting to see the trends of what our valuation has done over the years, over these 5 years presented. What's interesting to me here is the total assessed value has gone up roughly 7.4% over this 5-year period listed, where the tax ball has only gone up 3.2%. That's just how our property taxing system works with the rollback. A couple of other information items in here. This shows some of the larger taxpayers in the community. We're going to skip over some of the verbiage. Here's a nice comparison to show you the trends of levies and tax collections over the year. Collections have been pretty strong, as you can see here, where we only collected 98%. That was the beginning of COVID. And there was legislation in place where property taxes in March did get pushed off, and so some people had additional time to pay. But then they've rebounded, and we're trending well in collections. Some other information. I suppose we'll hit here. This talks about the debt limit and walks through the calculation of, currently at the end of June, we had $4.7 million outstanding by issuing this $5.4 million of debt, our capacity still remains at just over $35.3 million. So we still have plenty of capacity. Let's just jump forward here just a little bit. On page 47, we talk a little bit more about just the community in general with some of the larger employers with updated numbers of approximate employees that they have between full-time and part-time. And then building permits by the city. This information is presented on a calendar year basis as opposed to a fiscal year basis, which a lot of the other stuff is presented in a fiscal. This is calendar year, and like probably a lot of other communities across the nation, in 2020, we did see quite the bump in the amount of remodels that were going on because of the COVID pandemic. A trend of, this is kind of interesting, I think, the census data where we've trended over the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. So we're going in the right direction. And finally, it wraps up with a little bit about the educational offerings that are offered in the community, are the 2 high schools, and then DMAC, our wonderful presentation that we had tonight about DMAC. And then finally, the financial services that are available to the individuals in our community that they serve. So this is council's time to ask any questions if there are things we maybe need to look into or discuss, but this is the resolution that gets approved tonight. Will approve this to go out to potential investors. The plan is that the bid opening is scheduled for 10 a.m. on September 12th, so our next council meeting, and then the results of those bids will be presented at the council meeting that night for your consideration.
Good job, Laura. Thank you. I asked most of my questions last week, and it's quite the read. But yeah, do you have any other questions for Laura or Mike?
We did late on Friday. I'll just make a real quick comment. If you saw, we did late Friday get an updated preliminary official statement that having to do with some new federal laws that went into effect that affects the taxes on here. And so that has been incorporated in the latest draft, and that's what, as long as Allers, the bonding attorney, gives their blessing on it, that's what will go out as well.
And didn't that have something to do that they're potentially federally taxable if legislation would dictate?
Yeah, and it's on the corporate end. It's with
On the
new,
corporate side of it, right?
Inflation Reduction Act that was approved. It's all related to that.
Okay.
And Mike, I asked you about this, but maybe explain to listeners about the Moody's rating when that, you have it highlighted in yellow,
Yeah,
how that works.
so we have had our credit call with Moody's last week. We will receive that rating, I believe, on Friday. Yep. So that'll get incorporated once we receive that rating in here. I think the call overall went really well. We expect that we'll probably maintain our rating that we had previously.
Okay, good. Thank you for doing that.
Okay. Any other questions? So you're seeking a resolution for it. So is there a motion to that effect, that the resolution to approve advertisement and sale, improving electronic bidding procedures, distribution of preliminary official statement, subject to the terms for the Carroll Rec Center? Is there a motion to that effect? $5.4 million, I think I left that part out.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to that effect. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bordenaro?
Yes.
Schreck?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect. Thanks again, Laura. Okay, item 7B is wastewater treatment plant vertical loop reactor air piping, and this is a public hearing, right? I have 6:05, just turned 6:05, and so we'd open the public hearing for the wastewater treatment plant vertical loop. And Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. The plans for the wastewater treatment plant vertical loop reactor replacement air piping project have been filed by Veenstra and Kim. The plans do show the construction of replacement piping from the blower final clarifier building to the aeration basins. If you recall from earlier discussions, the current original piping was buried piping that had gasketed joints. And the air that travels from the blower building to the aeration basins is high temperature air. And it has deteriorated all of the gasketed joints in that buried piping. This project proposes aerial welded stainless steel piping from that blower building to the aeration basins. The specifications further detail that replacement air piping project. They are project specific, prepared by Veenstra and Kim. The form of contract was also prepared by Veenstra and Kim. And the estimated cost of the project is $250,000. And based on that, total project cost is now at $267,000. The budget has identified $200,000 for this project. Following receipt of bids, any funding shortfall will be recommended for reestimate into the current fiscal year's budget. The project schedule includes bid receipt on September 20th, consideration of award on the 26th, and substantial completion of the project May 1st of 2023. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of approval of the resolution adopting the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the vertical loop reactor replacement air piping project.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Randy? Have we received, there hadn't been any comment. Is there anybody here that has questions about, it's a public hearing, so if there's any questions about this, is there any, nobody online either? Okay. Nothing else for Randy? Okay, I have 6:07. We'll go ahead and we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll seek adoption of plans. A motion to accept the adoption of plans, form a contract, and specifications. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second for the adoption of plans, specifications, and form a contract for the vertical loop reactor replacement air piping. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Randy. Item C is the infill housing incentive program. More on this, and so I'll turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you, Mark and council. So if you recall, at your July 25th meeting, the council did approve the infill housing incentive program, with the program starting on August 1st. Now, this program has done what we intended, at least to get some buzz about housing in the community, and certainly we have met that goal. I've received calls pretty much virtually every day on the program, so that's good news. The basic framework of the program is if you build a new home that has a value of just on the home value of $625,000 or less, the city will provide an incentive up to $20,000 for each new single-family home and $20,000 for each new duplex. Now, the duplex can actually be a combined value of $650,000, but you still just get one $20,000 incentive. Initially, the program was limited to the first 10 units for $200,000 and was being funded by ARPA funds. Now, homes initially in the program, homes being constructed in lots in Northridge and Rolling Hills were not eligible for this program, in part because the city is working with other avenues to fund housing in those neighborhoods similar to this program. Now, for the Northridge neighborhood, the initial direction was we were going to work with the Carroll Area Development Corporation to purchase lots using ARPA funds. As we began working with CADC, and they've been really a great partner through these discussions, we really, as we got through the details, really discovered, and it's getting a lot more complicated and frankly let's just keep it simple, is really what both sides have come to the conclusion, and just include them in the infill housing incentive program. We think this would eliminate some confusion and really just simplify the process. And additionally, one of the reasons we were headed this way is we knew if we purchased at least 10 lots from the developer, we would get some discounts. But if you consider some of the holding costs that we would incur with those lots, both just real estate taxes, abstracting, and just other costs, it just made more sense to move away from that option. So the proposed in your packet is a revised program guidelines and resolution for the council's consideration that would simply include Northridge neighborhood in that. And additionally, because of the area, and we were going to set some funds aside, we're also recommending increasing the total amount of ARPA funds available to $200,000, and that would make the total number of lots available or homes to be developed under this program up to 20. Any questions on that before we move on to the next section? So that's covered in what the resolution and program guides is for you tonight.
Did you say when you were starting out, you said 625,000? Did he say that?
He did, so. He meant
For
325.
duplexes.
Okay. I think you said 625 for
sorry.
single too.
It's 325.
I was wondering if I missed something.
So sorry if I said that.
Not the only one.
Okay. So now is there any other questions about including Northridge in it? If not, let's talk about the housing cap. I mean, that's also been one of the areas of contention, and a lot of concerns been raised over that $325,000 cap for the dwelling of a value. Now, staff has been looking for ways to either increase or eliminate the cap in discussions with our legal counsel. As you recall, the Iowa Constitution does limit and prevents public funds being spent for private purpose. And so we always have to come up with a way to justify that. So we are looking at ways to modify the program. And the council should consider making a finding that supports the expenditures of public funds that are not a public purpose. And so that's what we're really, or private purpose. So that's what we're really trying to do here. So in the past, the Iowa Supreme Court has found valid public purpose in the expenditures of public funds to assist in the attainment of adequate housing for low to moderate income, elderly families, and families with disabilities. Now, that's one of the reasons why we developed the program that we did initially with the cap, really going for the affordable housing component. Now, one suggested approach, talking with Nathan Overberg, was to look at the average home sizes in the city of Carroll over the past 10 years, and then also attain the current square foot market price to construct a new home in Carroll. Now, the average home size in Carroll over the last 10 years has been 1,812 square feet. Now, we've had some conversations with various home builders in town, and we've had some mixed numbers, but what we've heard is anywhere between $200 to $265 per square foot for home construction. That would translate to a home value between $362,400 and $480,180. Now, certainly the council could consider eliminating the cap, but again, they need to consider making a finding that supports the expenditure of public funds, not for a private purpose. There is a case from the Iowa Supreme Court in the case of Knutson versus the city of Decorah, that the city of Decorah provided an incentive for housing and residential development, and the court stated that affordable housing needs only to be the type of housing that's important to meeting the needs of special elements of the population, such as elderly or persons with disabilities, or providing houses for various income levels of populations that may not otherwise adequately be served. While the housing would meet these needs, it cannot be said that it would be affordable. So in other words, really, is there segments of our population that does not have their housing needs being served? We certainly have had examples of like OBGYNs. We've had executives at various firms that have tried to find housing that haven't otherwise been met. This could be one avenue the city could take in making a finding that we lack affordable housing in all levels. This would also be supported by the loss of employees that we've had and employers that have extended offers that have been accepted, only subsequently being withdrawn because they couldn't find adequate housing in Carroll. So we're looking for a little bit of direction tonight. We'll then work with legal counsel to draft a revision that would be considered a future council meeting that would then look at the housing cap and what to do with that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
The numbers you just gave us are for the dwelling only, right?
Correct. That would not include land value, which our program was always written to exclude land value from it.
Mike, the 1812 square feet, was that in homes in Carroll within a certain time, last 10 years?
Last
Perfect.
10 years, yeah.
I knew it had something, but I didn't know.
And actually extends from 2012 through June of 2022, so it's 10 and a half years.
Right. Okay. You know, when Mike and I spoke with Nathan this week, we leaned on him pretty hard and, you know, trying to offer us some more flexibility. And, you know, he kept stating, you know, essentially what, you know, the state constitution allows for, but he says ultimately it's our call and a little bit, you know, what our risk tolerance is. And,
Yeah.
and you know, I still think we can build a case. I mean, I think we can build a, you know, a nice little handbook or a document or whatever it might be about some of the things you just mentioned just a moment ago about, you know, lost some opportunities, but also if we want to create, you know, workforce affordable, you know, lower to mid-income homes, that I think that by building some step-up levels, you know, that's gonna open that up. I mean, I think there's a lot of things we can build in terms of content to make our case palatable. But it's really up to you as the council, you know, to, you know, give Mike and myself some feedback as far as, you know, what your palate is as well. So we want to make sure that it's defendable and at the same time, something that's going to work and make things happen. But we've all heard it the last several weeks that the 325 seems to be the, you know, the barrier, and which is encouraging. I mean, from a tax-based perspective, we'd like to see, you know, these nicer, you know, more spendier homes built. But again, at the same time, we want to make sure that it's something that we can defend. But what other questions do you have for Mike tonight?
Mark, just when I think about looking at this and thinking about what is the average income, and if it's a home of two people, what are they pre-approved for a home mortgage? I mean, is that something that would help the city out on raising the cap as well?
I think at our housing meeting that we had that day, didn't they say that it's increased up to about 36%? That they can, their mortgage would be about 36% of their AGI?
Yeah, and I think, and where you're headed, yes, you're right, Mark. And I think the other issue is with, you know, you think about our average household income, it's around 70,000, and so you start doing the reverse math on it. 325,000 is going to be outside the range, and so, you know, from Nathan's perspective, you know, we're pushing it hard already. I think it's dispensable to say, well, these are the average houses that have been built. I think you can also lean on to some of the lost employment opportunities. I mean, we have a situation now where we have one of our major employers, New Hope Village. You know, they lost 2 executives that they couldn't get replaced. They made offers. One started, left within 6 months because they couldn't find suitable housing. Another one accepted the offer and then ended up subsequently turning it down. They replaced those 2 positions with 1 position that's now remote working from Marshalltown. You know, so you start thinking about those dynamics, and that's lost income that's not being churned in the city of Carroll. That's lost opportunity. So I think, you know, we can build the case to raise the cap, certainly. You know, I'm looking for direction of, do you even want a cap, or do you want it totally eliminated? I think it's the risk tolerance that the council has. I think Nathan would ultimately, my sense, and Mark was on the call too, you know, I think he would want you to consider having a cap at some level. But, ultimately, it's a council policy and discretion item.
Mike, you talked about, okay, we've heard, like, I heard Pella a few years ago talked about, we lost 2 engineers. They were going to make 6 figures. They didn't move here, there weren't homes in what they wanted here. So based on what you said about the Supreme Court ruling, do we need like raw data as well? That's anecdotal, saying, well, Pella, lost these 2 people, or someone else, the hospital could not recruit whomever, a surgeon or whomever. So based on what you've heard from Allers and Cooney, what do we need? Like both anecdotal information and hard numbers? What has more weight? Plus, in my mind, the whole reason we started this, I mean, we could go back to our original information in our packet. The whole reason we jumped into this is to attract workers, which the whole state is struggling with. And so that was our rationale, that we needed housing to bring workforce here, workforce at all levels. So I guess, thinking about the court case, but this is also limited. I mean, this is going to run out because in a very short amount of time, because it's ARPA funding. So how much of a rationale do we need to build? And we need to jump into this right away. We can't keep putting this off. And so what do we need to satisfy Allers and Cooney? But still, this does, in my estimation, need to come up and reflect. We have a very diverse economy. When you look at the top 10 businesses, the number of employees, and it's kind of weighted. You can look at how it's weighted, the jobs, but given the limited time, weighing legal considerations because we don't want lawsuits, what would fly, do you think?
I mean, I think ultimately, very good questions, and I don't have a definitive answer. There's no definitive answer. I think ultimately, Allers wants you to build the best case so that if you would face scrutiny, that you have a rational basis for why you did what you did. I think, I don't think we need to go much further. I mean, it's not like we have to go higher. I don't believe RDG to help us build a case per se. I think it really comes down to is what's the comfort level of the city of Carroll. And, I think ultimately also it's public perception that may be out there. Nathan pushed us quite hard of saying, does a person that wants to build a $700,000 home need a $20,000 incentive to build that home? Are they just going to build that home regardless? And that's the balancing act that the council needs to weigh. So there's both there's both the trying to set up the legal basis of why we're doing it, but I think there's also the political basis that the council has to consider.
I truly had feelings the same way of somebody building a $700,000 house. I don't feel like they need a $20,000 incentive, but it's opening up many things underneath of that.
Well, and I think Mark said it here this evening, our affordable housing is the existing housing stock that's out there. We can't replicate, my house has a assessed value of $135,000. You can't build a $135,000 home anymore. That's just not possible at any stretch of the imagination. And so, yes, if you build that next step up home, me moving out of my home into a step home frees up what is our affordable housing stock. And we do know from the RDG study that Carroll residents have typically underspent in the area of housing. So if you can make those investments, I think that's what makes sense. And I think the other reality, we've talked about this a lot, our existing what we're building on the existing lots is probably also not the right mark. You know, we need condos and townhomes that people are maintenance-free, that maybe are moving out of a two-story house to a single-story, one-story condo unit that will then free up that house for, you know, younger couples. So I mean, yes, building a $700,000 house frees up affordable housing.
I would say that I have to kind of agree with Kyle. That's kind of where I was at as well. But adding Northridge, I mean, that's mid-level upper, you know, and raising that cap, we might get a few more houses out there put up if we raise that cap.
So the question is still, is it just raise the cap, which I think we can make the case of going, I would say we can make the case pretty easily going to 500,000 and probably keep Nathan comfortable. But again, if the council wants to eliminate the cap, I think we can make that argument too. It's really up to the comfort level of where the council wants to go in a policy. So I just need a little direction on that. And then we'll work with Nathan to draft something to bring that back at a future council meeting.
So Mike, you're saying 500,000, that's just the structure. You're not counting the other. So you're looking at basically $550,000 home,
Correct.
okay? That's a pretty big home.
Yeah, and realize too, that is the assessed, county assessed or private appraised value.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will spend more than what even the appraised value goes out. So there's probably a 10 to 20% additional buffer in there.
Well, even if you moved it to 500/550,000, wherever you put it, you don't want to drop the value of other homes around it either, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a couple neighborhoods you wouldn't depreciate the neighbors' values. That's the one thing I would worry about too. Because that hurts you in the long run for your tax purposes and your tax base. So I'd be all right with moving it up.
What, I didn't hear.
I'd be all right with moving it up.
And so you'd rather put a ceiling on it rather than remove the ceiling altogether?
Well, I mean, $550,000 is a pretty high ceiling.
If you got a $500,000 house, your lot's probably gonna be more than 50,000, I would guess.
I don't know.
Whatever, you're the same point though. I'm at the point, how many $700,000 homes are gonna be built? Probably not very many. So, take the cap off. You know,
I'm with you, Laverne. I think maybe throw $1 million, I mean, but I don't think there should be a cap at all.
Yeah,
you know,
a couple of notes that I just went back that Nathan said. He starts off by saying, we're already in gray area.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and I'm going, yeah, how do we
I just don't-
solidify that?
yeah, I just,
But he also said that it was very important on how we write the resolution. The language of the resolution
Yeah.
is the linchpin.
I just don't
And
wanna get us in legal trouble going over 500,000.
I don't either.
I think we can make the rationale, again, our initial, what drove us to doing this. And then the background, like in our bond information, on our, again, the diverse economy, all the incomes, you know, meeting needs at a variety of income levels. And again, it's such a short amount of time that it's not, I don't see how it could, if we took the cap off, I think we're incentivized, we're recognizing the reality of Carroll. This is who we are. These are the jobs. This is what we need to keep Carroll viable. And we need people at all levels. This is a short amount of time. This isn't going to, you know, we're not creating winners and losers because it's first come, first serve. That's how I see it. And if we open it up, it's a short window of opportunity, and we'll see what happens. And I think all along I've said, and I agreed with Kyle's initial statement, we need to be very aggressive. And I think this, I would hope this would fly if Nathan, you know, maybe work your magic with him, Mike, and see what he thinks, but yeah, I don't see what we have to lose by recognizing who we are and the needs that are out there.
As far as construction going, the clock's ticking on us on this thing.
Right, they want to be dried in.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
an ARPA
it's-
fund doesn't last forever either. You're talking something that takes a while to build. So, I think we need to get rolling hard on it.
Yes, yes.
To your point, Carolyn, I still think the housing study shows we need houses on all
That's,
different levels.
that's a good thing to include also, Mark, right.
I mean,
Good,
it's-
good. Yes. I think we could just do bullet points, boom, this is why we're doing it.
The housing
And,
housing study didn't put limits on anything. It
No,
said
not
build
at
them.
all, not at all.
That's it. Got enough to go on?
Yep, so if that's consensus, so
You-
the request would be to approve the resolution that's in the packet tonight,
For
because that gets
Northridge.
Northridge in it. And then, one other question is, because I know time is of essence, and certainly getting in some construction, would the council be receptive within either next week or maybe the week after, just holding a very brief special session to?
Sure.
Sure.
We got Labor Day, but other than that, I mean.
It won't be
I
on
mean,
Labor Day.
It won't be on Labor Day, that's fine.
Good,
I mean, those meetings take 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
yeah,
So,
Leave the car running.
yeah.
yeah, and we can offer it by Zoom too to accommodate some people.
No, if you're good,
Yeah,
I'll help any way I
Good
can.
point.
Just-
Yeah, because we have an extra Monday.
We do have an extra Monday. Yep.
We have an extra week in there
Yep.
for the next council meeting.
We'll do bills too.
And then we're still having some discussion with 704 and the south side. And
Yes, I have a meeting tomorrow with
Okay,
them.
perfect. Okay, so I think what's on the table, unless there's any other questions, is a motion to approve the resolution to add the Northridge addition to the infill housing.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to that effect, then. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Bornero,
Yes.
Dirks,
yes.
Base. Yes. Bauer,
Yes.
Shrek. Yes. Resolution is approved.
Perfect. Thank you all. Okay, under item number 8A is vicious animal appeal hearing, and I turn this over to Laura.
I'm going to let Jessica make some comments about
Okay,
how to
Jessica,
proceed tonight.
thank you.
Jared and Sadie Hansen, the owners of the dog at issue in this matter, have appealed Chief Brad Burke's August 5th declaration, which designated their dog a vicious animal. We'll have a hearing tonight on that appeal. I understand Chief Burke will present
Correct.
first, and then Jim Van Dyke is here on behalf of the dog owners. All right, go ahead.
I'm gonna go up to the front here.
And then council will ask questions if you have any.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Did you want the doc camera?
Okay, thank you. This incident occurred on August 3rd around 6 p.m. in the 800 block of Capistrano Avenue, and Officer Nathan Colt from the Carroll Police Department is the one who responded for us. I review the report as quickly as possible after the incident has occurred, and then we go through our vicious animal process after that, we have with every other one in the past. Chapter 56 of the city ordinance is the code that deals with vicious animals, and the definition of vicious animal is highlighted here, and the element that we're looking at is any animal which has attacked a human being or domestic animal one or more times without provocation while at large. Chapter 55 for the city ordinance then defines what at large is for an animal. Again, it's highlighted here. So at large means off the premise of the owner and not under the control of a competent person, restrained within a motor vehicle, or housed in a veterinary hospital or kennel. That's kind of the basis as to how our code works as far as what we look at when we go to a vicious animal. This photo here was taken, there's two photos here on this screen once it focuses here. This was taken either the night of or the next day of the location that we believe that the incident occurred at. The gray house that you see here, got the squad car in the front, Christmas lights, that house. That is the Hanson address at 816. And then the driveway that you're seeing here is 824, which is directly to the east of their property. What you're looking at in the roadway is some blood spots that Sadie Hanson, she is the owner of the dog. She went out there to try to stop the attack, and she got her hand bit, and so that's where the bleeding had occurred. So that's what we're seeing on the street there, which shows that the attack potentially occurred at that location. And this here just shows the, turn it around. This is from the assessor's page, once it focuses. There we go. Okay, this is from the assessor's page showing 816, 824, and the X in the road is pretty close spots where the blood spots were marked. The blue line around 824 is the property line for that location, and also the line here is the lot lines approximately between the two residences, and you can see where we have marked where the incident where we believe it occurred at. So that is those descriptions. I'll leave that up here while I run through the rest. I don't have any more photos to show you at this time. What happened that night was that Trish Roberts was walking her dog on Capistrano Avenue in the roadway. She has a small black dog, was on a leash at the time, and Sadie Hanson had pulled into the driveway, had opened the garage door. This was based off a statement that she had given to the officer that night. And the dog had exited from the house, and it came out to Sadie's location, and then at some point must have saw the Roberts dog and ran across the yard and attacked the dog. It bit the dog a couple times. The dog did require some vet attention. Ms. Roberts' dog did. It sustained a small cut along its eye and some potential bruising and minor damage to the muscles. The dog was having some limping around with some sore muscle issues the next day. So the dog did get its attention by the vet with some minor treatments that was taken care of for the dog. So the Hanson dog, we don't believe had any injuries, and then like I said before, Sadie, when she was trying to break up the attack, had got her hand bit also. So not sure, the statement didn't say if it was which dog had bit her hand, but it happened during the attack anyway. The attack didn't last very long. Sadie was able to get it stopped. Her husband Jared had come outside also and got the dog separated. Trish had indicated that when the attack occurred, she had dropped her leash and her dog was kind of running circles, so the leash got tangled up with, I think, Trish and with Sadie also. I'm sure she'll be able to give you some more information here also tonight. And during our investigation, we did find that the Hanson dog was lacking its rabies vaccination. It had expired about 1 year prior. They did get that up to date since that time. Doesn't really play into our vicious animal thing. It is a state requirement that you have your dogs up to get vaccinations on rabies. So really all I'm trying to show here for this is that we believe the element was met to deem the dog vicious because the Roberts dog was on a leash in a public roadway during the attack. The leash was dropped, but at that point the attack occurred, it was being controlled by a competent owner. The Hanson dog was not provoked. The Roberts dog, we don't believe, came onto the property in a charge. The Hanson dog left the property, attacked the Roberts dog, did cause some minor injuries, and the Hanson dog was at large since it did leave the property without any control of the parties at the residence. I don't have much more for you guys. That's based off just the facts that we got from the officer that night. I do have Trish here. She'll come up and give you a little explanation as to her part of the incident. And since it was her dog that was attacked, she might give you some better description as to injuries and things too. Any questions that you guys might have for me at this time? Trish, you want to come up?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
So are you gonna ask questions, or you want me to?
It's how if you just want to give us kind of your statement as to what occurred that night, where you were at, what you were up to when this all happened.
Sure, so, I left my house on San Salvador Avenue and, had my dog on a leash, went down to High Ridge, went one block, short block to Capistrano, and it's the route we always take. I was, now that I know where the blood stains were, I told Officer Colt that I believed that I was in front of the driveway of the neighbors, and I saw the squad car, And, you know, I will tell you that I didn't know that there was a dog that lived at that house, or I would have maybe been watching more. But all of a sudden, I see from this eye, something coming after me and my dog. And so first thing I did was held my hand out, which is typically a sign for a dog, if it's been trained, not to come any further. And I said, stay, and then I said, stop, and then as it got closer, I started screaming. So, you know, and I saw then there were people in the yard, get your dog, get your dog. That's, you know, how I responded as the dog owner. And by the time I then tried to get around and get my dog, she was wrapping around me. And I will tell you that I appreciate Deputy Hanson tackling the dog and getting the dogs separated. It's a terrible way to meet your neighbors. But I do appreciate when I picked her up, she had, you know, there were some wounds on her neck, some puncture wounds. I set her down to see if she could walk, and she couldn't. Both her front and back right side would not hold her weight. She's 17.2 pounds was what she was at the vet after the incident. And then while I was holding her, blood started coming from her eye, which I'm not a medical professional, but I know that that's never a good thing. And as it turned out, her eyelid was lacerated. So, but I was pretty panicky at that point because I knew that it could be something more serious. And I was also panicky because I saw how strong the dog was, and I saw blood, and I knew that my dog could have been killed, and I knew I could have been attacked as well. So that's what happened. Officer Colt, are you Officer Colt? Officer Colt drove me home. I tried to get in right away to the vet clinic. I got consultation that evening with the vet. And I will say happily she's, you know, she's healing.
Trish, one question for you. Did your dog at any time enter onto the grass of either one of those properties when you were walking it?
No.
Okay. I think that's all we have for our side, so if you want Mr. Van Dyke to go ahead, certainly can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Sorry, I do have one question. Were there any other witnesses that like watched it happen?
No.
Okay.
There was witnesses though. He was called. I'm sorry, but there was witnesses. It was an officer involved incident,
Swear him
by
in.
the way.
Should we swear him in if he's gonna testify? Sorry, Jim, just,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you also state your name?
My name is Tad Haverhill. I live directly behind the Hansons. I do not advocate for destroying or killing a dog. But there were witnesses. My wife witnessed the incident from our deck. You can see by the aerial photos. We had a direct line of what happened. We did call dispatch, and it took approximately an hour and a half for him to call my wife back. At which time, we also watched the officer drive her home. And she also had to wait, approximately an hour and a half to get her dog into a vet, which I feel, it was an officer involved. The officer was in uniform, and her dog bit her. But it was an officer involved event.
Can you elaborate
Called
on
my
what?
wife back an hour.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by officer involved in the event?
She was in uniform.
Okay.
She was at the scene of the incident.
Okay.
My wife called the Carroll police.
This is not a Carroll County
She was-
canine, also, by the way, that was
No,
involved.
It was a sheriff, deputy sheriff. She's a deputy sheriff. She was in uniform when she got bit. When my wife was called an hour and a half later, she was told by the officer that no injuries are reported. There was an injured dog, injured officer, and plenty of blood on the street.
I'll just make one comment. This guy was not a party to this event, so all he's saying is just hearsay for your information.
I was on the deck with my wife.
Okay.
And just for the record, just your address, please.
My address is 817 San Salvador Avenue,
Perfect, thank you.
directly behind her house. We have a direct view between the two houses. My wife called right away before the officers even showed up.
Okay, thank you.
We witnessed Sadie walking away with the blood on her hands. We watched her down on her knees while she was looking at her leg. We did see the incident where she set the dog on the ground and the dog couldn't move her rear end. We did watch Jared and her holding her daughter in the driveway of the neighbors, 5 to 6 feet away from her.
Mr. Haber, where did this, was this in the street or on someone's property?
It was in the street.
Okay, thank you.
She was in the street the whole time.
Thank you.
Then did you also see the Hanson dog run free? And
No, I
not,
did not see
you,
that
so,
part.
okay,
The
because
only thing
that's
I seen
very
was
critical.
I was in the house at the time. My wife was out on the deck and she called me through the door. I walked through the door. By the time I got to the door, Jared was taking the dog home. Sadie was still on her knees looking at her leg.
But you did not, my only question is, you did not see the actual attack.
That is correct.
Thank you.
But my wife seen it as it was going on. And she did call it. Should be in the police report.
There was a witness statement, but they said they didn't see the actual attack occur. I don't recall the name.
No.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Thank you. Yeah. Jim, come on up.
Ask questions. Can I sneak around by where you are and ask questions? I'll make a quick statement.
Okay.
You're not gonna swear at me, are you?
You'll pass.
Well, you're presenting information to the council.
Okay.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Sure. Yes, I do. I don't plan on giving any testimony. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Jim Van Dyke representing Sadie and Jared Hanson in this matter. And just as an opening matter of jurisdiction, I thought I would show you the appeal notice that we filed because the code does require that. And it was a letter addressed to the council and mayor, hand-delivered to Ms. Schaefer. Where am I?
There should be, see this red dot right here, Jim?
Yeah.
That's your.
Good, okay, good. Okay, thank you. And yeah, this is the notice of appeal that I brought to City Hall on August 9, and pointed out that we are appealing the vicious animal designation. We are denying that it's a vicious animal, and we believe that the dog was provoked by Robert's dog approaching the Hanson property. In fact, the initial contact between the dogs was probably on the Hanson property, at least by a few inches onto the property. And the notice is incorrect when it says the initial attack was in front of 824 Capistrano without provocation. The Hanson's dog was simply protecting its own property, which we submit was provocation. There's another code chapter, Chief Burke mentioned chapter 55 about the definition of at large being off premises. One thing that I want you to consider right away, because you are in fact a jury here, is that the blood spots that were pointed out were at the end of the attack, not the beginning of the attack. The beginning was on the Hanson's property, and Sadie will testify to that in just a moment. But where Sadie was injured and bleeding was after the dogs had already gotten together and it was off the property. The attack was on Hanson's property, which I think takes it out of the definition of off premises in the at-large, chapter 55. Also, the provocation we submit was that this dog was protecting its own property and protecting its owners. 2-year-old girl and also Sadie, who happens to be pregnant. And so this dog was being very protective, not attacking, not vicious. Okay, with that introduction, I would propose to call Sadie to be sworn in, and maybe I can slide around here.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Okay, for our record tonight, please state your name.
Sadie Hansen.
What do you do for a living?
I am a deputy with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office.
And Sadie, how long have you been a deputy?
Just over 5 years
Okay, and where do you live?
at 816 Capistrano, here in Carroll.
All right, and your family is husband Jared and a daughter?
Yes.
Aspen is 2?
Yes.
And you have another one on the way?
Yes, 2.5.
So you have a family of 2.5. All right, I'm going to start at the end. This is they're talking about a vicious animal. What is this dog's name?
So this is Groot, and then that would be my 2-year-old daughter.
Okay. Is Groot a vicious animal?
No. If he was vicious, we wouldn't let our 2-year-old ride him, pull on his ears. She literally pulls food out of his mouth while he's eating, and he just sits there. She pulls on his ear, she pulls on his tail. He's been around numerous other dogs. He's not vicious.
What breed is Groot?
He is a brown lab and Catahoula mix.
What's a Catahoula?
They're a southern hunting dog, same thing as a lab. They're just, both breeds are bred for hunting, basically. We don't hunt with him, he's gun shy, so noises scare him.
How old is Groot?
He will turn 5 towards like the end of October, beginning of November.
Sadie, what was your vantage point for this incident?
Right when I was pulling into my driveway, so, in our driveway, basically as I was running across the yard to get it separated.
Okay, we've seen the picture already of your, looked like a Durango or something, the sheriff's deputy?
Yes, that's my take-home patrol car.
Okay. Now, okay, what did you first see when you pulled into the driveway?
So as I pulled in the driveway, our garage door was shut. I was actually on hold on the phone, so I had waited just a few more minutes than I normally would have before I would have gotten in my squad car. And then I had opened the garage door like I do 98% of the time when I come home. Usually I have things in my hand, it's easier to just go through the door, especially with my gear on, rather than trying to squeeze through our side door. So I had opened the garage door. I did not realize that while I was opening our garage door, my 2-year-old, who literally just had figured out how to open like the twisty doors like a few days prior, had inside opened up the door that goes between our garage and our kitchen. She had got that open. Same time that I had opened the garage door, like I said, I had no idea. At that point, Groot, who was excited because I was home, he had pushed past her through the garage, had came out to greet me as I was stepping out of my squad car. And as I stepped out of my squad car to greet him, that's when he noticed Trish and her dog approaching.
And where did the initial contact occur between Trish's dog and yours?
From what I was able to see, it appeared that the initial contact did start on the corner of our property. I'm not disputing that it ended off of our property quite clearly. Like I said, it took me running across the yard. I was the only one that separated them, no one attempted to separate them. I'm pregnant, I'm not very fast right now, so it took me a little bit to get across the yard. At that point, when I got them separated, that is when it was actually in the street. I just want to point out too, like from the pictures, our lot line isn't our privacy fence or like the mauve line that you would see in the pictures. I think it's roughly 4 to 5 feet actually east of that. When we had to put in our privacy fence, we had to move it in off of our lot line due to electrical or some kind of wiring or stuff underground.
Did you take some pictures to illustrate for the council where the lot line is and where the attack started?
I did, yeah, these are gonna be approximate. And with the angles and stuff, it's hard to tell exactly, but yeah, so this would be our actual, or what is very close to our actual lot line, which is, like I said, where I believe the initial contact between the dogs did occur.
We have another photo here with marks. And by the way, did you put the marks and the wording on those photos?
I did, yep, those are actual pictures, and then I was able to go in and add that text on the pictures.
Can I ask a question? The X is where you said you thought that it happened?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, on that one, yeah, the lot line and then start, I should have put like slash start, but yeah, that's where I believe it started. This next one is gonna be just a different vantage point. So this would have been from approximately where I was standing, in our driveway, facing southeast. There again, that's gonna show that X would be the start of our actual lot line. Like I said before, it is past like where it looks like the fresh mow line would be. And then the other X would be the ending, that is approximately where the blood from my finger was. That's where I was able to get the dog separated. I'm not sure exactly how far that is.
What does this one show?
And then this one again, this will be facing east off of our curb in front of our house, facing where the incident ended at, which would be approximately where that my blood was.
Let's back up one photo, if you will, please, Sadie. Is there sidewalk on your side of the street?
There is not a sidewalk on ours. There is a complete public sidewalk adjacent on the other side of the street.
Was your dog provoked by something?
In my opinion, that would be provoking, yes, them walking towards me as I was getting out of my squad car. So I stated before, we have a 2-year-old, and with me being pregnant, a dog was doing his job. He is very protective, just because, I mean, they know, you know, when an owner's pregnant, they're very sensitive to that, and he was just protecting me. He saw what he believed was a threat coming towards me as I was exiting my patrol car. He knew our 2-year-old was right behind him coming out the door as well.
Hold on a second. You pulled into the driveway, which is where in relation to those two red marks?
So where this picture is, this is, you can kind of see on the bottom right corner, that's the edge of our garage. So that would be approximately where the front of my squad car was. I pulled all the way up into my driveway. The previous picture that showed the blood marks was taken at a different time when I was not working, which would be when my squad car was parked at the end of my driveway.
Put your finger, where is your driveway in relation?
This is our driveway. This is the sidewalk right here that runs right next to our driveway that goes up to our front porch area, which is right here.
And if I heard you wrong, tell me, that's where your driveway is, and you said that the initial attack occurred way down on the park corner away from your driveway, correct?
Right here on that corner of our lot line.
And
Yeah.
then
It looks further than it is. Our yard's not that big.
And then you said Trish's dog came at you. How far onto your property did it come, since you were exiting your car in the driveway, but you said Trish's dog came at you? How far onto your lawn did it come?
No, I just said
you?
they were walking in our direction right there. So that's where.
No,
I
you
believe
said the
initial
dog
contact.
came at you. I want to know where it was and what you mean by that.
I misspoke. I didn't mean it came at me. I said it was coming at us as meaning at me in my direction. So like walking at me.
Okay, I thought you meant it was coming to attack you.
No, I meant walking at me. I'm sorry.
Okay, one other question. How much does your dog weigh? Trish said her dog weighs 17.2 pounds.
Yeah, he's anywhere between 70 and 80 pounds depending on how much activity he has. He gets a little chubby these days.
Okay, 70 to 80 pounds. Okay, one last question for you. When you said you were breaking the dogs apart. Would you describe the position of the two dogs when you were trying to break them apart?
So when I went to go, so I was like running towards them. Groot would have been on the right side, which would be the kind of grassy side. Her dog was on the left when I got them kind of in that position. I approached them, like I said, to kind of break them up, get them broke up. I had basically grabbed Groot. I grabbed his mouth and his collar and was pulling him back. That's actually when my finger got bit by the black dog, was in that altercation. I got him pulled back and kind of swooped him around, and that's when we were standing in the street. My husband obviously was coming at that point too. That's when he grabbed our dog, and then I was asking her, "Are you okay? Is your dog okay?" And then I
Okay.
waited for a city officer.
Okay, you explained to me where you were, but I didn't hear exactly how the dogs were entangled. Based on what Trish said, there were puncture marks, the lid. Was your dog, for instance, like holding the other, I want to know, was your dog holding Trish's dog down? Just describe their positions in relation to where each was.
So obviously my dog is bigger, so he is going to stand taller and be above that dog. So when they were fighting, yes, he was above them. But like I said, her dog also was nipping and fighting back. It's a dog fight. Obviously, both dogs, they're going at it. I don't expect her dog to not, be fighting, especially if a bigger dog is standing over top of it. Like I said,
So
Groot
they
was on
were
the
both,
right and hers
they
was
were
on the
both
left.
stayed in a standing position.
As much as you would in a fight. That's kind of like, in my opinion, trying to describe a bar fight or a wrestling match. I mean, they're just.
Well, were they wrestling? That's a good word. Were they kind of wrestling and rolling around or whatever? Or one pin,
Like
the
I said,
dog
Groot
pinned down?
was over their dog, but he stands taller than their dog. So in that position, yes, he was over their dog. It didn't appear to me that her dog was pinned down, unable to move. Like I said, when I grabbed Groot and was pulling him back, that's when I was bit by her dog.
And Trish's dog was on the leash until it became entangled in Trish's legs, right? It was,
The leash was actually wrapped around my torso and neck. My husband's the one that pulled it off of me.
okay, thank you.
It's just confusing, I apologize.
So to pick up on that, right where Ms. Seaman left off, was Trish's dog being controlled on a leash at the time of this confrontation?
While the dogs were fighting, I do not believe she had control of the leash. Like I said, it was wrapped around my torso and neck through it, trying to get the dogs separated.
Real quickly, is that a picture of your finger got bit?
Yeah, I did end up going to the ER. That's the aftermath of my finger. That was bit.
Sadie, where is your dog now?
My dog right now is at my mom and boyfriend's farm, which is in Sheffield, Iowa. He's there with two other dogs, and obviously they don't have issues with him. During the day as well, he's roaming, he's free like a farm dog does. They have had zero issues with any of the neighbors in that area, zero issues with deliverymen, mailmen, people coming to work on their house that they're building. They've yet to have an issue with him or even any signs of aggression while he's been there.
Did you get a vet bill from Trish?
We did, yeah. So my husband is actually the one that collected that portion of it.
Okay, I'll ask her then. Okay, there's the photo I was looking for. Okay, that's your car, is that right where you parked at the time of this?
No, so this is what I was describing earlier when I said the photo that was taken afterwards that showed the blood. I believe this would probably be the next day, because by the time that it ended up getting darker. So where my patrol car is parked at right now, towards the back of my driveway, is where I park when I'm not working, so we're able to get vehicles in and out of our driveway. During the incident, it was parked up here. It said I tow all the way up to my garage door.
When you were pulling in, was Tricia's dog under control of her leash?
To be honest, I didn't even see them walking. Pay attention to that. I don't know if they would have still been on High Ridge yet at that point or what. I know she mentioned that she saw the squad car. Like I said, I didn't even notice them walking if they were walking on High Ridge coming around the corner.
No, I meant when you were pulling in, what was Trish doing with her dog?
I wasn't even paying attention to behind me at all. Like I said, I was pulling into my driveway, looking ahead
And you saw your dog run out?
after the garage door had started to go up.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
So the photo that you're looking at right there, Sadie, with your squad car, or Durango,
Mhm.
and that blood stain, was that the beginning of the fight or the end of the fight?
That's where the dogs were separated, and like I said too, I had Groot and I had also pulled him back and then had my finger held up too. I was trying not to get more blood on my uniform, more than that was already on it. Like I said, I kind of had my finger out held too, and then at that point, that's when it really started to bleed a lot, which is what you see there. Otherwise, a lot of the blood was on the dogs as well as my uniform during me actually getting them separated.
I think you said Groot's a little less than 5 years old.
Yes.
Have you ever had a vicious dog complaint against you for Groot in the 4.5, 5 years?
We've never had any complaints, citations. To my knowledge, we've never been called in for anything involving him or anything like that.
So we're dealing with just one incident.
Correct. And he's been in the public numerous times since we've had him in the last 5 years. When they've had like the doggy dips at the pool, he's been there, obviously not on leash, surrounded by dozens of other dogs, other, kids, other adults, stuff like that. He's never once had a sign of aggression there, never once attacked another dog there. When I am able to, and we do run, never had issues as far as that goes. We've passed multiple dogs. Our neighborhood is littered with dogs. And like I said, we pass people while we're walking, kids, adults, elderly people, and he's never showed signs of aggression towards them.
Thanks, Sadie. I don't have anything further. A few questions for Jared.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please tell Mayor and Council your name, sir.
Evening, guys. My name is Jared Hansen, live at 816 Capistrano, husband for Sadie.
Okay. Jared, what was your first knowledge that there was something going on with your dog and Ms. Roberts' dog?
So I was getting ready to make supper. Aspen had either seen or heard Sadie pull into the driveway. She ran to the door, like I think Sadie said too. All of our doors in our house are the lever style of doorknobs. This is the only one that's the round knob. She just figured out kind of how to grab it and turn it a couple days prior to this. So she ran over the door. She usually sit there and knock on the door as you walk up. So she ran over the door, happened to turn the knob, get it open. I was only a few steps behind her because I was going to open the door for her and let her down the stairs into the garage so she could greet Sadie as she walked in. She got the door open, Drew pushed by her. I didn't think much of it because he will do that on occasion if we're home. He'll run up to greet us. Never had any issues. And I was waiting for Aspen. We got 2 steps from the kitchen level down to the garage. I was waiting for Aspen to go down those steps. I heard Sadie holler at Groot, and it just didn't quite sound right. So I got past Aspen, walked out to the door, and saw Sadie going down to separate the dogs. By the time I got there, she had gotten the dogs separated already, and all I saw was blood and the dogs. And Miss Roberts.
Did you see the initial point of contact with the dogs or not?
I did not.
Okay. And the blood stains that are shown on the highway, or on the street there outside that driveway, are those the beginning or the end of the fight, if you know?
That is the end. That is where, when I got down to him, Sadie was sitting here with the dogs separated. I came up from this direction, around the kind of the backside, I guess you would say. Like I said, I saw some blood spots and stuff like that. I noticed Sadie on her knees with the dogs, with our dog one way and the Roberts dog the other way. The leash was wrapped around Sadie's neck and then down around her one arm. And I obviously kind of went into defensive mode, being my pregnant wife sitting here separating a dog fight with a leash wrapped around her neck. Didn't know at that point if it was impeding her airway or choking her or anything like that. So I went ahead and got the leash off of her neck and shoulder, neck and armpit or torso, and attempted to hand the leash to Mrs. Roberts. And she was more concerned with if the dog was a canine and that, oh my gosh, your dog could have killed my dog, than to regain control of her dog.
So you had Groot for a couple of years before Aspen came along?
Correct.
Maybe a dumb question, but can Groot sense that Sadie was pregnant?
Definitely. With Aspen, with our first, we were trying, we weren't, actively trying hard, but all of a sudden he just kind of started acting weird one day, just laying at her feet more, being kind of more protective and things like that, just in the house even. And I think a few days to a week later, we had a positive pregnancy test. And then the same thing with our second one now too. It was kind of the same deal. He just kind of started acting a little bit different around Sadie. And like I said, within a week or so, we had a positive test.
So on this occasion, on August 3, was Groot being aggressive or protective?
I would say protective.
I don't have anything further for.
One thing I would like to add, as Sadie said, the dog is currently at her mother's house up by Sheffield. They've got 2 other dogs. He's had 0 issues the whole time he's been up there. They are in a farm place. They've got at least a dozen cats, farm cats, So if we're talking a vicious animal, those cats wouldn't be alive right now. They've had absolutely no issues whatsoever. And to reiterate what Sadie said, we've had him out numerous times on walks to the trails, Swan Lake. I believe there was one time we might have crossed paths with Chief Burke and his family and their dogs, 0 issues. I mean, I can't tell you how many dogs, small dogs, big dogs, people that we have encountered out in the public that have had 0 issues with.
I think Sadie said you were the one who dealt with the vet bill.
Yes.
And got it here somewhere. By the way, did you notice the date of the vet treatment?
I believe it was the morning after, the day after.
And it's an Audubon Vet Clinic, the AMVC, is that the bill?
Yes.
And was that paid by you and Sadie?
Yes.
And $93 was the total?
Correct.
For treatment of the Roberts Road?
$93.62.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. And that is all the evidence I have.
Jared, do you guys have any surveillance cameras, Ring doorbells, anything at your house?
We have a Ring doorbell, but it doesn't point that way. And the way our house is, I don't know if we have an aerial shot again. Well, I can kind of show this one. So, yeah, it's kind of dark. The door is, our house is kind of a U-shaped or horseshoe shaped. So the front door is back in here, so it looks more towards the driveway versus down this way. I checked that too to see if we could see anything there.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, thank you.
Any rebuttal?
Just a couple of closing, thank you. I contest probably where the location occurred that this incident happened, but even if that becomes a non-issue saying it did happen where city indicated it did, the city defines the right-of-way as approximately 16 feet back from the curb line. So that would be public right-of-way at that point. So if she's contesting that the incident happened on her lot line, right at the curb line, like she demonstrated in the photo, that would still be at large by our city code. Secondly, our code is pretty black and white. Historically, if your dog is friendly, if your dog is still friendly, our code says an animal which has attacked a human being or domestic animal 1 or more times without provocation while at large is considered vicious. We all know what at large means, and a subject walking their dog along the roadway, to me, is not provoking another animal to come and attack them. That's all I have, thank you.
To be clear, Brad, we don't have anything that says that a person has to use the sidewalk even though one's available.
Not that I'm aware of, it's potential, but I don't.
Oh, yes, we do. I know that ordinance very well.
I wrote it. It's one that we don't enforce as a police department, we'll say.
Okay.
quick response to that, if I may, Mr. Mayor. The definition of provocation is not in the code anywhere. It's up to this council to decide what provocation was in this circumstance. Combined with Sadie being pregnant, combined with the dog rushing on toward the Hanson property and possibly on the Hanson property, I think the council would be well within its rights to conclude that that is provocation, that that dog would not have ever attacked Ms. Roberts' dog if that had not happened, if that provocation had not occurred.
What's the rules on the dog collar for the city?
As far as someone walking a dog, like a leash law?
Must be, yeah, leash law.
Like
yeah.
a leash law. So the at-large doesn't define that it has to be on a leash, but it has to be under the control of a competent party. So the at-large is defined by our code as off the premise of the owner and not under the control of a competent person, restrained within a motor vehicle or housed in a veterinary hospital or kennel.
So a dog not on a leash, but under the confines of an electric fence would still not be considered at large.
If the person can control it. So if it's on the property, electric fence on the property, is that how you're
Yes,
thinking?
yeah.
That would be different because it would still be on the subject's property.
Correct, okay.
If you're walking with your dog and it has a shock collar, per
Yep.
se, and it controls the dog that way, and
Yeah.
so that's under the control of the owner.
Same question, thank you.
If I could just say one more thing about why I walk on the streets.
Okay.
You're still under oath.
Here.
I am, okay. If you go up into our neighborhood, some of the sidewalks, the sections have become uneven. And I've had a knee replacement and a bike wreck, and I just am extra careful. So I walk on wide, flat areas, and that's why I walk on the street. Never walk on the street if I'm in an area where there's a lot of traffic, which is also why I walk in our neighborhood, because there's not a lot of traffic. So I choose the street for safety.
So the key issue is provocation. I mean, it's, and we've had a lot of testimony here, but it all boils down to, you know, whether or not there's provocation or not. You know, and you know, I want the council's opinion on this too. In my mind, you know, I'm thinking if you look at the distance that both dogs traveled for the incident to occur, that the Hanson dog had to go quite a little bit more than what the Roberts dog had to do. Now, we could still consider whether or not it's provocation that the Roberts dog was headed that way, and then the leash only went so far, whereas the Hanson dog wasn't leashed and so traveled so much further, you know, is kind of a secondary question to ask ourselves. But, you know, for me, you know, I'm just thinking that for the incident to occur, the Hanson dog had to expend, you know, quite a little bit more travel for the conflict, you know, than the Roberts dog.
Even if we consider, okay, this dog was provoked for whatever reason, it still was never under the control of anyone else, regardless of whether how we see the provocation, until Sadie, you know, broke them up. But when that happened, it was over.
It was game on. Mhm.
Right, so, but their dog was never under the control of a competent person, not under control by anyone. It was loose.
If I could make one other clarification. I was holding my dog's leash until the point when she was tackled by the other dog. Mouth was around her neck and shaking her, and then I lost the leash. I couldn't hold on to it. 'Cause I know there was reference to me not having a hold of my dog's leash. I lost it.
So where does that go then?
70-pound dog, and you got a 15-pound dog, and a dog holding a dog in the neck and shaking it like a rag doll. That's how you gotta look at it, and look at the distance it was traveled. A big dog going after a little dog. Imagine what the little dog was thinking.
So was the leash tied around both of you by the time this was over? Because you said it was around you and you said it was around you.
It was around me initially, because my first question of myself is, why couldn't I get her picked up? She was running around me, and she was like a greased pig. She was trying to get away from the other dog. I couldn't get her picked up.
But then you got out of the leash.
I got out, I mean, it's only a 6-7 foot leash. It's not very long.
Yeah.
It was not tangled around my legs.
Okay.
She was going around me. And I was turning in circles.
And can I just ask again, you said that you run with your dog when you can. Has the dog been out loose in the yard multiple times without leash, without fence, without collar? I mean, is this dog let to run free, or do you leash it, walk with it, run with it?
Yeah, I have a waist harness that I run with on a bungee cord, so if I'm not running, he's on that. We also have a shot collar. Other than out of our backyard, which is a privacy fenced-in area, if he's outside of that area, we usually have him either on a leash or with a shot collar. Literally, the only reason that happened and that he was out in that fashion is because our 2-year-old opened the door. I mean, it's not like we purposely opened the door and said, be free or go potty in the front yard or anything like that. Like I said, it's just, she opened the door and at the wrong moment.
Is there any other discussion or questions from council? If not, then it's up to the council tonight to determine whether there's clear and convincing evidence that the Hanson's dog is a vicious animal. And I'm gonna read that definition again. Any animal which has attacked a human being or a domestic animal one or more times without provocation while at large. Does anyone need the definition of at large again? I'll read it just in case. At large means off the premises of the owner and not under the control of a competent person, restrained within a motor vehicle, or housed in a veterinary hospital or kennel.
Are there any more questions? Or maybe seeking more evidence? So then is the next step that we just do a roll call vote on this? This is my
Yes.
first go-around at the carnival, ladies and gentlemen, so.
Yeah, so I believe it would be yes to uphold the designation of the dog as a vicious animal, or no to grant the appeal.
Okay. So the question is do we uphold the chief's, okay.
And we're charged with what Jessica just read us, that whether the dog is vicious in accordance with Chapter 56 of the city code, not in accordance with other people's definitions that are not a part of the code.
I guess the only thing for me on this is seeing the child on the dog and then having a sidewalk on the other side of the street in this deal. And if there's a code that says that if it's available, you're supposed to walk there. I mean, it could have got ran over by a car. I mean,
I'm struggling a little bit as well, trying to figure out exactly if everybody knows for sure where it happened. Because one person says in the street and one person says in the yard, and we have no evidence. We have no ring, I mean, if, no ring doorbell, we have nothing other than the two people that were there. And
My only comment would be is that, so our right-of-ways are defined, and Mike might be able to explain it better than I can as far as the zoning part of it, but your right-of-way is typically about 16 feet from the back of your curb line. So to your property line by city code would end at that point. Now, you are required by code to maintain that area of land between the road and the right-of-way. But that, even if it happened where the Hansons indicated it happened at, or we believe it happened at where the blood stains were at, to me, that's still in the public right-of-way.
Can I ask one question on that, Chief Burke? If we would put in an underground fence, are we allowed to go up to the curb line then, or do we gotta stay 16 feet back?
You would potentially have to stay 16 feet back from that curb line. Or if you had a sidewalk, it's the edge of the sidewalk. And I'm not great with the zoning part, so I would have to defer that to another party to get a good solid answer on that.
And certainly the right-of-way varies by area, but, you know, going off the county aerial photography, it would appear in this area to be approximately 16 feet from the back of curb. And again, off the county aerial, I'm just gonna go to it would appear, I mean, these are property lines the county have, the red lines are what shows the property line. So it would appear that the mow line itself is generally where the property line would be.
Sir, according to when we had it surveyed for our fence, we were told where the pins are at. Can you zoom out or go towards the backyard a little bit? Yeah, see, that doesn't have the pin. So according to what we were told is it was to the east farther, like 4 to 5 feet.
Yeah.
We actually moved the fence in because all of the utilities run right there between the lines. Because we were gonna put the fence on the lot line.
And so these are just general property lines put on by the county. They're not surveyed accurate. But they are general, I mean, what the county generally tells us is they're within a foot or two of where the actual property lines are.
I'm a little confused. Where did the attack actually happen, the start?
nobody knows.
So that's a property line?
So the property line is right here.
Yeah, but between the two properties.
That's where the mow line is.
Okay, but one of the photos showed it, you can't see where I'm at, is close to the next driveway, right?
Closer to the driveway, wasn't it?
I was back by the driveway when it happened.
So
By
that's
the
not
driveway
their
today.
property.
I mean, the mow line to the driveway would be approximately 31 feet.
Yeah. The blood spots would have been just into that driveway, but that's not necessarily where they're contending that
One thing
the
also, guys,
confrontation began.
that shot, so you can't go by the mow line, because that shot is over 2 years old. We put our privacy fence in the backyard in April of 2020.
We also have an agreement with, like, we personally know the people that used to own, well, they're selling it now. And when they do, they have a rider, and they said, hey, do you care if we just mow right next to your guys' fence line? And we said, yeah, we don't care if you mow onto our property, that's just easier for them to make one strip. So that's when I stated too, that the mow line and the pictures that we had wasn't what we were told our property line is, that was actually into what our property line
Yeah.
was.
Sadie, would it be possible for you to come up here, like go to one of the screens or go to the screen and show us where it happened based off this?
Yeah, so, yeah. So, like I said, like, this is like kind of where our fence line is, where like that mow line is, and we were told our property actually goes, like I said, you know, was 4 to 5 feet over. And like I said, I believe the initial contact happened within this area, which would have been at least a few feet, or a few inches onto our property line. Like I said, where it ended was more in this area by the time I got the dog separated, and I had my hand out, which is why, and standing there with our dog and walking around, which is why the blood is more in this area.
Mike, you just put the pointer back to where she originally pointed?
So you were showing like right in here?
approximately in this area, like I said, which would be where what we were told, the correct property line is within this area. Yes.
So just for reference, I mean, the property line's not the back of curb. And, you know, this red line, again, it can be a foot or two off, but it's not going to be more than 5 feet off. In that location, it'd be about 13.8 feet to your actual property. So, I mean, from that location, it still would be in city-owned right away.
Just to clarify, if anybody is wondering, I never, ever walk on anybody's grass. I never get into anybody's yards.
Mr. Manager, I think city-owned right-of-way is not a correct term. I think it's an easement. They still own the property, and the city has an easement for that area.
Not in this area. We actually have deed fee title in this plat.
Some places are and some aren't.
Yeah, so this would not be an easement area.
Does this essentially work like a court of law that we have to act beyond a reasonable doubt?
Nope, clear and convincing evidence is the standard. Whether there's clear and convincing evidence that the Hanson's dog was a vicious animal,
Okay,
which again, I point you to that definition.
okay. So you're looking for the council to judge on whether there was a clear act. Is that clear and,
Clear and convincing evidence.
thank you, clear and convincing evidence. Does everybody need any more information before we render a decision?
I do. So
Go.
at large, if Trish drops the leash, is her dog at large now? Not controlled?
Correct.
And if so, Trish's dog bit, I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Sadie.
Sadie? So do the same circumstances apply?
Would you say that was provoked or unprovoked?
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, we're supposed to be objective about this, so you got kinda two things going on here. You know, two different
That was brought
rules.
up to me during our investigation, and to me, that's a provoked attack. If my dog was to bite back, so let's say if you got into a fight, then you have the right to defend yourself. So I would say the same with an animal.
Okay.
So that would be not provoked. That is my opinion on the definition of provoked.
I'm just trying to understand it, because there's the at-large, and then there's the not handling the leash, and I think Carolyn said, what was it you said, that incompetency of not controlling something, or what was
It
it?
must be under, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but under the control of a competent person.
Right.
And that the dog that attacked Trish's dog was never under the control of any person,
Right,
ever.
but then the leash gets dropped, is that competency dropped
After,
then too, or
after
not?
the attack
Right,
occurred,
correct.
it was dropped.
Correct. So,
So, as Brad said, the dog that was attacked had a right to defend itself. And the pictures earlier, now this really helps to see where it happened. As Mark said, that dog had to travel quite a distance and was never under the control of a human.
Out of everything I've heard, that's just the only thing that, you know, is more clear and convincing to me, is that the Hanson dog had to travel in order for the confrontation to occur.
Right.
And whether it was provoked, not provoked, I understand that it's still rather primary that we talk about provocation, but if we have two different opposing pieces of evidence, each claiming the other one was provoked, the only underlying clear and convincing evidence for me is that the amount of travel, you know, that the confrontation had to occur. Doesn't make me right or wrong, but it's just what I'm observing here.
Right, and I've written down a quote from Sadie that when we were talking about where did this occur, how long did, you know, et cetera, she said it happened on the corner of our property. So, and that's consistent with what she just said, which again is the dog went out of its way for the attack, in my opinion.
Well, you said that leash is 6 or 7 feet. I mean, that's the furthest that dog could have gone, which is vastly different than, out of the garage and, into the area that it occurred. Any other questions or any need for further evidence or testimony? So then do we just seek a roll call vote? Is that what we do here?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe yes is to uphold Chief Burke's determination, and no is to essentially grant the appeal.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Bornero,
No.
Bauer,
No.
Seaman,
Yes?
Shrek,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
4-2.
Okay. So it's approved to uphold the Vicious Animal Act or ordinance. Yeah. Anything further? Okay.
Thank you. I'll draft an order.
Yeah. Needless to say, a very unfortunate incident. And it's painful to sit up here, but that's our job. And so thank you for all of you concerned, particularly you, Brad, and Officer as well.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, committee reports, comments from the mayor, I have none. Comments from the city council? And we already had council, comments from the city manager. We're in order for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bornero,
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
We are adjourned.